Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast. Happy Hump Day to each and every last one of you out there in Facebook land and YouTube land. Thank you for joining us here today on our podcast. We are joined here this evening by the Vice Mayor of the beautiful city of Deerfield Beach, Mr. Todd Drosky. Welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast. So, welcome back. You've been on here a few times, so welcome back, sir.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you, Mr. Adams. It's always great to be here. Thank you.
Yes, great to have you.
It's always good to have you here. And as we were talking off air here before we went live here, you've been out on the campaign trail for a few months now, and you've participated in candidate forums around the city, and you've been asked a lot of questions and you've answered them. So my brother and I, we came up with the idea that we're going to just let you talk. Everybody that comes on here from today and tomorrow, we're just going to let you all talk, and you have the floor. You could tell the voters out there in Deerfield Beach whatever you want to tell them, whatever you would like to clear up, any rumors or anything. You have the floor, Vice Mayor Todd Drosky.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy Wednesday to you guys. I'm always glad to be on your podcast and share and talk with you. There's a couple of topics I really wanted to share with you and your viewers since the last time I was on the show, to really have some substantive updates that affect our city. One is there's an update on Mount Trashmore and the waste management proposal for expansion of the dump. Two, there was very recently the other night a visioning session for Dixie Highway sponsored by the city at the Tigner Center that I wanted to discuss and go over. But before we get into those two big topics, I really want to take this opportunity to dispel just a vile rumor that is being spread on social media about me and the Packer Rattlers football program. I mean, I have always been a huge supporter of the Packer Rattlers football program. And unfortunately, there are those out there that are spreading a audio from a commission meeting in 2018, which was the year after I was elected, somehow, some way trying to imply that I am basically a racist and want our Packer Rattlers youth to play football on the Mount Trashmore dump. It's preposterous. It's insane. It makes no sense. And it's really just disgusting and doesn't have any merit in this race whatsoever. What happened was in 2018, we had an extremely long commission meeting. I believe it was 5 hours plus. And we had many topics at that meeting, one of which was the Mount Trashmore dump, and another topic which was the Packer Rattlers. But those were two independent, nothing to do with each other topics that were discussed during the meeting. And then at the end of the meeting, the mayor always gives the commissioners the opportunity to say whatever we want, to kind of summarize the meeting. And as I was summarizing the meeting, I was talking about the Mount Trashmore dump and the Packer Rattlers, but not together. But somehow, my opponents have taken it to mean that I wanted the Packer Rattlers youth to play football on the dump. Totally preposterous, makes zero sense whatsoever. I've always been in support. In fact, I was a big cheerleader for the Packer Rattlers youth programs coming back. And I gave up my own personal Devin Singletary jersey, signed Buffalo Bills jersey, to the Packer Rattlers to them to auction to give seed money going forward. So I just want to clear that up. And if anybody has any doubts whatsoever, I want to put it to bed now once and for all, because it really just has no place in a campaign, especially in 2025. We should be talking about the issues and not making up race baiting to try and get votes.
Yeah. And you were saying that that the video or that's being circulated is edited. Am I correct? Was it edited or?
It is, and the audio and the video, and there's multiple audio videos and multiple subjects going around that are being edited. So it's dirty politics at its worst. Some of the outsiders viewing this race from Deerfield Beach are calling it the nastiest by my opponents, ever in our city's history. But I'm keeping my head high. I'm running on the issues, and I think that's what's resonating with the voters, is what my vision is and my experience was going to bring to the city, not what platitudes and dirty comments that I can make.
Yeah, well, it certainly has been one of the nastiest
Yes, it has.
political races I've ever seen here in Deerfield Beach. And it's been a lot of low blows being punched below the waist. And you have to have broad shoulders during election time. So, and I think you've handled it very well. So go ahead, Vice Mayor. You have the floor.
Yeah, excellent. So, I mean, that's just a segue into the voters really do care about issues. They really do want their next mayor to be someone that has the experience and the vision for this city, not just somebody who's going to step into the mayor's seat because they have these general ideas. They want people to follow through on what they actually say, which is the record that I have. So one of the things that I wanted to follow up on your show was with respect to the Mount Trashmore, as we affectionately refer to it, the Monarch Hill dump. And I really wanted to update you and your viewers from the last time I was on the show. So last week, myself and Mayor Gans, Commissioner Hudak, City Manager Rodney Brimlow, and many residents from Deerfield Beach went down to the County Commission chambers in Fort Lauderdale, where they were going to vote on the expansion of the dump. And just as a quick recap, Waste Management had proposed to raise the dump both horizontally and vertically. So right now, the cap vertically for Mount Trashmore is 225 feet. The request by Waste Management is to expand it to 325 feet. And just by reference to everybody, 325 feet is taller than the Statue of Liberty. In addition to that, so let that sink in for a minute. But if that isn't bad enough, then they also want to expand, Waste Management wants to expand it horizontally as well, because you have the parcel, the 24-acre parcel on Green Road on the north side of the dump, which happens to be adjacent to the waterways and Independence Bay communities in Deerfield Beach, which are in my district. So there used to be an incinerator there, Wheelabrator, correct, which right. Waste Management closed down. It was vacant. There was nothing there. And then they recently imploded it, and now it's vacant. So now they want to put garbage there, getting even closer to the residents to give them the opportunity to make more money. And let's just stop right there for a second. That's all this is about. This is about money. Money. Waste Management is a $1 billion corporation. I believe their profits last year were $7 billion in 1 year. So this is what it is to them. And let's look at it. Let's look at it historically, and let's look at what the county allows. So the county's own code, Broward County's own code, says that a dump can be no higher than 125 feet. That is in their code. Now, Mount Trashmore was initially put in the 1960s. So in that time period, the residential communities did not exist where they are today. It was basically nothing that was out there. It was fields, and it was just the dump and only the dump. So, but what happened over the years is that the county allowed residential development to go in. It allowed the Independence Bay and Waterways communities to go into Deerfield Beach. It allowed Century Village to go into Deerfield Beach. It allowed Waterford Homes and Waterford Courtyards to go into Deerfield Beach. It allowed Banyan Trails to go into Coconut Creek. So it allowed all this residential development to go in. And despite that, the county granted Waste Management a variance to go from 125 feet to 225 feet. Now the proposal is for Waste Management to go from 225 feet to 325 feet, but not by variance, but as of right. So that makes a big difference. So now, as of right, Waste Management can go from 225 feet to 325 feet. The problem with that is those residential communities are still there. These people bought their homes with the understanding that 225 feet was going to be the limit. In fact, County Commissioner Mark Bogan has an audio recording from Waste Management when they were at the county commission meeting asking from the variance from 125 feet to 225 feet, saying, this is it, no more, we're not going any higher. But now that they're at that 225 limit and need more space, now magically they want to go forward. So that's kind of the backdrop to all of this. And we very vigorously, the city of Deerfield Beach and the city of Coconut Creek, very vigorously lobbied the county commission to not allow the expansion to go forward. One, because of aesthetics. Two, because there's environmental issues too. You have to remember, this dump was built pre-Environmental Protection Agency. So all of the EPA standards and requirements are not there for this dump because it's grandfathered in. And during the questioning, during the county commission meeting, it was very explicitly asked, is the dump leaking? Because there's like an apron underneath the bottom of the dump, and that apron has holes in it and it is leaking. And the county basically admitted that yes, that apron is leaking. So that leachate, the runoff from the dump is going somewhere. It's going into our groundwater, but they don't have to, right. But they don't have to do all of the testing because it's pre-EPA and they're grandfathered from the requirements. So they don't have to do all of that testing to get it approved.
Yeah.
The other thing is that the county code requires, in addition to the initial 125-foot height limit in its code, which is limits, it also requires buffers around the dump as well. I wish I had a map I could show you of the landfill down by the airport in Broward County. But if you were to look at a visual, if you were to be high in the sky and looking down at that dump, you would see the dump, but then you would see buffer areas around it. You would see lakes and retention ponds, which is to capture all that runoff that I was talking about. Excuse me. Let me get a drink. I'm doing a lot of talking here, guys.
Yeah. Take your time.
And you have those buffer areas and those lakes to catch the rain, the runoff and the rain, and any other kind of contaminants. And that's the way it's supposed to be. But if you were to take that same look on the top of our dump, there are no lakes there. And in fact, the buffer areas are getting smaller. The higher you go, the smaller that those buffer areas become in reality. And the county did not require Waste Management to expand those buffer areas during this expansion. So long story short, the county did approve the expansion by a 5-3 vote. I guarantee you the one county commissioner, because there's 9 of them, the one county commissioner who missed the vote, I guarantee he would have been a no vote. So it really would have been 5-4. So we were really 1 vote short of defeating that proposal. But it doesn't mean that we are done. That we're certainly not done fighting, because the update that I wanted to bring to you is, now that Waste Management has received approval from the county, it now goes to the state of Florida and is going to require their approval as well. So certainly the city of Deerfield Beach will be contesting this at the state level for several reasons. One is that the approval does not even match the county's comprehensive plan, because again, it was limited to 125 feet. So it doesn't match their comprehensive plan. 2, there are unknown environmental issues which have not been addressed. And then 3, the county's own version of its planning and zoning board, the planning council, voted unanimously 18-0 twice to deny the expansion, and they did it anyway. So we certainly have grounds on the state level to contest it. And then in addition to that, we had a commission meeting just last night where, I don't want to get too much into the legal weeds or whatever, but we authorized the initial start of what could be a lawsuit against the county. We haven't done that yet. You have to have what's called a Chapter 164 proceeding first, which is basically Florida law says that when one governmental entity wants to sue another governmental entity, you have to have this pre-suit, almost like a mediation first before you can file suit. So the commission voted unanimously last night to approve going through that Chapter 164 process, having the pre-suit mediation with the county, so that if that is unsuccessful, which I assume it will be, then we can authorize a lawsuit against the county if need be. So that's really important because that's going to affect all of the residents in Deerfield Beach. I don't care if you live next to the dump or if you live on the beach. This is a quality of life issue that affects all of us, affects Northwest Broward County. And so it's something that's, obviously near and dear to me, not just because it's my district, but it's my city too. And I think all of us need to be aware of it.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
Because it could affect our groundwater in the future.
And you could, I was going to say,
our drinking
you never
water.
know, people have been getting sick for years. Who knows? Maybe that's contributing to people getting sick and cancer and all. You have all kind of contaminants that's seeping down into the groundwater. So, and it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. So,
no, and I agree with you. And it's something, where the science has to catch up because unfortunately, it takes time for the scientific, results to come out and for the effects of these types of, dumps to take effect. Same thing with cell phones, the scientific results are not, known with the cell phones either. That's going to take time. But I bet you, if you and I were to come back in 20 years and have a discussion, it would be very eye-opening as to what is exactly going on at that dump and happening to our residents.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to give you that update. I think it's very important. And the other thing is that we had a Dixie Highway corridor visioning session the other night at the Tigner Center, which I think was a good start to basically have a discussion of what kind of development the city and the residents and the businesses want along the Dixie Highway corridor. I would hope that we can all agree that something has to happen on Dixie Highway, especially from Federal Highway to 10th Street and even down to Sample Road. Let's just say, Hillsborough to Sample on Dixie Highway. We really need to do a better job along that corridor. And there's a lot of reasons why it hasn't happened over the years. So just getting all of the interested parties in a room on a Monday night, there was probably 50 people, I would say, maybe.
Yes, it was
well attended.
Yeah, it was well attended. Yes,
it was well attended. So to get 50 people on a Monday night into a room, I think is a good start. I don't think that was a bad idea at all because listen, you have families that have been in this city for over 100 years. Our city's 100 years old this year. You've had families that have been here longer than that, and so
our family.
The Adams family, yes.
1913.
So it's you have deep roots in this community, and so you have a vested interest in what you want to see happen. But I think doing nothing is not an option, in my opinion. So we need to make sure that we're all on the same page doing it. So all of us being in the same room was very positive in that regard. Listen, I'll be very honest. I was kind of I wasn't overly pleased with how the meeting was run in particular because I think what the meeting should have been was that initial salvo between the city and the residents and the businesses to start building that bridge. We jumped in the pool, we jumped in the deep end. Instead of putting our toe in the shallow end and start building that bridge together, we jumped in the deep end and we started talking about density and we started talking about walkability and we started talking about environmental issues there and what we wanted to see along the corridor. And maybe that was a little premature. Listen, free information is good, don't get me wrong. But I mean, I think we need to start talking, to each other and not at each other. And
definitely.
I think I heard too much at that meeting for my liking. So when I'm mayor, Dixie Highway has always been a top priority of mine. In fact, in every candidate forum and every interview that I've been in, one of the most frequent questions you get asked is, what is your top 3 or your top 5 priorities when you become mayor? And I have consistently, if not always, made Dixie Highway, the top 1 or 2. I mean, obviously, Southwest 10th Street project is going under construction later this year, so that has to probably be number 1. But Dixie Highway has to be number 2 because that is Dixie Highway, to me at least, is the heart and soul of our city. And one of the other problems that we had is that the visioning session was kind of branded as the central city corridor. But after talking to a lot of the residents and long timers, they don't think of Dixie Highway as a central city corridor. So they think of like MLK and that area as the central city corridor, and Dixie Highway as its own corridor. So I think right from the get-go, we kind of got lost in the weeds, is that we weren't understanding the community enough as to exactly what area we were talking about. So that kind of started the discussion off. But I want to make it very clear that, I mean, yes, Southwest 10th Street from Dixie Highway to I-95 is important, and Hillsborough Boulevard from Dixie Highway to I-95 is important. But Dixie Highway from Hillsborough to Sample is critical. It's absolutely critical to our city. I mean, that's where our city was founded. That's the roots of our city there. And so what I intend to do is I really want a blue ribbon panel of businesses, of residents, and also our pastors. I think the pastors are the hidden key to all of this, because the pastors know their parishioners inside and out. They know their families, they know their wants, they know what's hurting in their lives, and so they really know the fabric of our community, and having them involved in this process as well, I think will help bridge that gap as to any mistrust there may be between the residents and businesses in the city. Because listen, the city isn't here to take your property. I'm not interested in that whatsoever, and I have zero interest in anything that would lead to gentrification. That is not what I want to do at all. But I do think that along that corridor there are opportunities. Those families and those businesses and those property owners that want to do something with their properties, be it workforce housing, be it small retail, be it restaurant, those opportunities are there. And a lot of these parcels that we're talking about on the Dixie Highway corridor, you may look at a piece of paper and see, a city block that is vacant. But when you go to the property appraiser's website, you may have 2, 3, 4 owners. The vacant parcel in particular down at Southwest 10th Street and Dixie Highway there on the northwest corner that's vacant has there's 2 parcels. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 owners on that one parcel alone. So you're going to have to cobble that ownership together to make any type of agreement. And sometimes getting 2 people to agree anything is difficult, but now getting 5 people to agree is even more difficult. So in that particular situation, 2 of the parcels are owned by the city. So we're ready, willing, and able to give those up if the other 3, can come to an agreement. Now, one of them is a right of way, I think, by the Florida Department of Transportation. So that's not too bad, but the other 2 are privately owned. So it's really just getting those folks into the room and saying, are you interested or you're not interested? And what I'd really like to see, and I've never seen it, and what I'd like to task the city to do is to just go down that corridor and find who all those owners are. Make a list, a simple alphabetical list, and contact each and every one of them and say, hey, Adams family, are you interested? Yes or no? Hey, Portier family, are you interested? Yes or no? Tigner family, are you interested? Yes or no? And let's just kind of see where we are. And I don't think we've ever done that, kind of like a playbook, like any football team, like the Pack Rattlers, you have a playbook and you run your plays. But to get the playbook, you have to design the plays and see what works. And you do that based upon the personnel that you have on your team. Well, let's see what personnel that we have as far as our property owners and our businesses, and kind of put that together into a playbook. I don't think it's very difficult. I think it is time consuming, yes, but we certainly have some really good folks at the city that I think are more than capable of doing that. So not only putting that playbook together, but also getting that blue ribbon panel of the property owners and the residents and the pastors, and I'll say it again, I really think that they can be a key in this, really is the initial spark that we needed. So Monday night was good with respect to putting everyone in the same room and hearing each other. But it also showed us that we still have a little ways to go and more conversations need to be had.
And Vice Mayor, I wasn't going to say anything, but since you're talking about Dixie Highway, and it's been a hot topic here, the FP&L trucks, so the electric trucks that are parked right there, just south of the Dollar General there. We were told that there's nothing the city can do about that because it's owned by FP&L and they're
Regulated by the state.
regulated by the state. Is that there's some truth to that?
There, oh, excuse me. Sorry.
Take your time. Take your time.
And you're still going to be able to get everything in. Yeah.
Well, I've been
That's
talking.
don't worry about that.
I've been talking for almost 25 minutes straight, so sorry about that. But yeah, there is some truth to that, but it's really just going to FP&L and just saying this is unacceptable. Our city is not a parking lot, and so we need to come to an agreement with FP&L, and they need to move their trucks elsewhere. I mean, it just looks bad when you drive through our city and all you have is all those trucks there like a parking lot. Unless they're going to sell them, and put them up, put for sale signs in them. I'm really not interested in being a parking lot for somebody else.
Well, that's what they're using it for. It's a parking lot at night, and they have the big night lights up there, and it's lit up out there. And right now, it's an eyesore. And
it is.
It doesn't look too good.
I agree. I mean, I've seen it too. I mean, they have the lights, they have the security guard walking around, but that's just not. Again, it's all about what is the vision we want for Dixie Highway. That's not my vision at all. So that
everyone just got to come together, Vice Mayor. Everyone come together, put their heads together, and quit talking at each other and listen. We can get some viable businesses on Dixie Highway. We can get it done.
Yeah, I guarantee that FP&L is a very big company. I mean, they just asked the state for $7 billion in rate increases over the next years to pay for their business. So I'm pretty sure that they have a lot of resources and assets, and they don't need to make Dixie Highway one of them. So I intend to have that conversation on day one with them to get those trucks out of there, because that's just not the appearance that we want for our city.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay.
So those were the two topics that I wanted to, discuss, is that, the dump and Dixie Highway, that there's certainly a lot to be done. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And that those are two topics that, I intend as mayor to address is basically on day one.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. You still have the floor.
Yes.
We're trying not to ask you any questions, so you can talk about whatever you want. That's why we're not jumping.
We're going to allow every candidate to come on and do the same thing.
So,
we don't want to take away from what you're saying.
If you want us to chime in, we will.
We're
just listening to you.
Okay. No. So this is a very important election in our city's history. You have two distinct choices as to where you want this city to go. And I think that my vision, not that I think, I know my vision and my experience is what this city needs going forward. Let's talk about the experience first of all. The experience is I've been city commissioner and vice mayor for the last 8 years. So I am battle tested. I have been through all of the trials and tribulations. And so I can hit the ground running on day one. I don't need to reach out to other cities and develop relationships, because listen, your first year in office, you're just getting the lay of the land. I don't care who you are. And it takes a long time to develop relationships with other cities, and the county and the state and all the other various boards that are out there. And it doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes it doesn't happen at all, because you have to have the right temperament, you have to have the right attitude, you have to have the right knowledge and the right skill set to do that. So my colleagues appointed me as to the Broward League of Cities soon after I was elected, and I was the representative for all 8 years that I've been in office. And just last year, my 7th year in office, I was the president of the Broward League of Cities. So it took 7 years for my colleagues in Broward County to trust me to be the president of that organization, because it takes a lot of trust for them to be able to put you in that position of leadership. But they did. And in fact, I was only the second Broward League of Cities president from the city of Deerfield Beach ever. The first being State Representative Gwen Clark Reed. She was the first. So to think that you're going to come in on day one and run the city and have the expertise and the relationships, not only with existing city staff, but with the county, the state, and all of the other boards and vendors that we deal with, it's a very monumental task. And I want the voters to really consider and think about that. Think about it as if you were going to have surgery, a very important life-threatening surgery. Do you want the doctor that has performed that surgery 1,000 times before and knows how to do it and can work with the technicians around him? Or do you want the surgeon who's just out of, residency, that's never done it before? I think everyone in their right mind is going to pick the surgeon with experience because they feel more comfortable and they want the person who's been down that road and can expect anything, that may go wrong during the surgery, that person will be able to fix it along the way. And I liken that to this election as well, is that is the position that the voters are in. I have been that surgeon that has been with all of that experience. And that is what we need for the city going forward, because we have a lot of topics that need to be addressed. I already mentioned briefly the Southwest 10th Street Connector Project.
Yes, very important project.
It is important, yes, but it's also going to be very disruptive to our city for a long period of time. And just like the dump, I don't care where you live, east or west, that project is most certainly going to affect you no matter where you live. Because if you're trying to take 10th Street, that will be traffic. And then it'll shift to Hillsborough Boulevard. It'll shift to Sample Road. It'll shift to Military Trail, Powerline Road, Southwest 18th Street and Boca Raton. It will move the traffic around no matter where you're going. You will feel the effects of that project. Before I was ever elected, I worked on the Southwest 10th Street project. So I've been dealing with this for 12 years. I know who the players are at the Florida Department of Transportation. I know what the challenges are with that project going forward. None of my opponents can say that. I don't even think any of my opponents know, who the players are at FDOT to deal with. So one of the issues that we're having right now with FDOT is landscaping. It's a 2-mile stretch from I-95 to the Sawgrass Expressway on Southwest 10th Street. And so FDOT will put in, a very hardy landscape palette to buffer that as much as possible. But when they're gone, they want the city of Deerfield Beach to not only maintain that landscaping, but to pay for it. And I say BS, because first of all, this is a project we don't even want that's being forced upon us. And now that it is, then the Florida Department of Transportation should maintain that. But they say, oh, we just build roads. We build roads. We don't maintain landscaping. We build roads. Okay, fine, fair enough. But then you need to pay the city of Deerfield Beach for us to maintain it. It's not fair for our residents and taxpayers to pick up that bill and which will be a very hefty bill at that, for a project that we don't want.
I was just going to jump in and say that too. Shouldn't they donate? Shouldn't they give the city some money for the crews going out there cutting it, once a week, X
allocate
amount of
some
dollars
money towards,
yes, for them to allocate some money towards the maintenance and the upkeep of the of those medians that they're going to put out there, the shrubbery and grass and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, just drive on the Sawgrass Expressway. I want everyone listening to this, whenever you're on 95 and you're in the express lanes, or whenever you're on the Turnpike, or whenever you're on the Sawgrass Expressway, look at it with a fresh set of eyes. look at it like it's the first time that you're getting on 95 and these various roads, and you will see that some of them look like absolute crap. You will see them like on the sound walls or whatever. You will see vines growing over the top. You'll see trees growing through them and shrubs. You'll see discoloration, and mold. Look at it with a fresh set of eyes and say, hey, do I want that to be my city? At I-95 and 10th Street, they're going to put in overpasses. Next time you're going through, say, Fort Lauderdale, downtown, by the airport, or if you're going to Miami, through the Golden Glades interchange, take a look at those bridges and roadways and say, hey, this is what happens when you don't maintain it. It'll look nice, I suppose, when it's first built in the city, but what's going to happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we're, when they don't maintain it, and then our city looks like crap. So those are the maintenance responsibilities that FDOT needs to be responsible for, because I'll be damned if I want a project in my city that, first of all, we don't want, that's going to split our city, but then looks like crap in the meantime. I'm not interested in that.
Yes, no doubt.
So that
sounds good to me.
So that's one of the things that I need to deal with when first becoming mayor. Then, in addition, don't forget, we had the referendum 2 years ago for the Southwest 11th Way project as well. That is, just to refresh everyone's mind, that's the parcel, the public parcel at 10th Street and I-95 that went to referendum, that was sold to a private developer that's going to put in workforce housing. There's going to be a hotel. There's going to be office space and businesses, some restaurants. And then in addition, and the most exciting aspect of that is they're going to have a rooftop park on that as well. And the rooftop park would be public like any other park, just like Mayo Howard Park across the street. So I really want to make sure that the developer sticks to, its plan and its word and the agreement to make sure that that park gets built. And that we connect to Mayo Howard Park, because I think we also can agree that Mayo Howard Park needs a facelift as well, and needs some improvements. And really, we can make that a better park as well with the money that we're getting from this project. And it can tie into the Southwest 11th Way project as well. If we were able to put like a bridge, for example, from Mayo Howard to this park, I mean, I think that would be fantastic. That would be a home run, and it would be a new destination for people to come to our city. And it would be a home run for the residents that live behind there to have one of the top premier parks in their backyard.
Yes, and traffic, it will be horrible when those projects come. It's one thing too, Vice Mayor, I wanted to touch on too. Down by North Broward Hospital, I mean, I know the intent was traffic calming between 48th and Sample, but if elected and whoever is elected, please, y'all do something about that. It's confusing even going. I mean, it's those poles down there are broken. It looks terrible to anyone coming into this city. So that's one thing too I wanted to touch on, since you was on that project over on 11th Way.
No, I agree. You're talking about 3rd Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So absolutely. So Deerfield Beach was the first city in Broward County to receive a grant for the type of traffic calming that we have on 3rd Avenue. And so, because listen, 3rd Avenue is a speedway. When we went out there and took measurements of how fast cars were going, you would get cars sometimes that were going close to 100 miles an hour on that road. And I kid you not. That's way too fast for that residential area, but it's a straightaway. It was an absolute straightaway from Green Road to Sample Road. So we received a grant from the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization to do traffic calming on that road to slow everybody down. And so that's what you had. You had like the poles, you had the pavement that was painted. You went from 2 lanes to 1 lane, 1 lane to 2 lanes, all in the intent to slow people down. And to that extent, it worked. But now, years later, the paint is faded. People have run over the poles. It's a shell of what it did look like. And
Yeah.
so that pilot project ran out. And so we need to come to a long-term solution, because letting it deteriorate the way that it has likewise is unacceptable.
Yeah. Total eyesore down there.
Yeah, it looked good when you all first put it in. It the streets were nice and colorful, and it did look decent. But now, like you said, it doesn't look very well, and it needs some attention.
People confused down there. I see people about to have an accident. I'm just waiting on the next accident to happen. And also down there, it was a death. We had the family on our podcast here last year, where what was it was Ross Hall's son.
Yes,
but he was killed over by the Quick Stop, right over by North Broward Hospital. So we know the traffic calming is needed down there.
Yes.
It just we need something else, better solution for that area. And that's just one. I don't want to take away from your time. I just wanted to throw that in there to make sure that gets some care here in the future.
Yeah. No, I want to give you about 5 more minutes because I want to wrap it up.
Great. No, all right. So I agree with you that we need to go back and get a grant. And if we can't get a grant, then do it on our own, because we certainly cannot leave it the way that it is. I've walked those neighborhoods during the campaign, and it's one thing to drive it, but it's another thing to actually walk through it and see it up close and personal.
Mhm.
It's worse in person than it is in driving. So
Yeah.
you must have been looking at my notes here, because I do have that on there. But I mean, certainly everything that we have is very important. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about that was very important for this election is not just experience, but also vision. What is the vision for this city? My vision is not to go backwards. My vision is not to do things on the cheap. I get blasted, with respect to the garbage cans and the lifeguard stands over at the beach. But it's, what kind of city do you want? Do you want a city that invests in itself, that looks good, that you can be proud of as a resident to bring your guests and your family here? Or do you want something that's on the cheap and looks cheap going forward? And we have 1 million visitors that come to our beach every year. And you have those individuals that look at our lifeguard stands. I think everybody agrees that the lifeguard stands had to go. They were garbage and needed to go. And so what we needed to put in next is something that we could be proud of. We went out to bid on those lifeguard stands in 2022, and all 5 of us on the dais said no, because the bid came back at $180,000 each. And so we basically did not approve it. We said, okay, let's wait. Let's come back in a year and see what happens. Well, what happened? Inflation happened. Inflation happened. And everything's gone up. And it's not going back down to 2022 prices ever again. So the price went up to $217,000 per lifeguard stand. And that does sound expensive, and nobody's happy about it. But it's not just a lifeguard stand. First of all, the cost goes into half of the cost alone is for demolition and permitting, because the United States Army Corps of Engineers, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Broward County of Environmental Protection, they all have their permitting and say in this. So half of the cost goes to permitting right out the window. The other half of the cost goes to design, engineering, and installation. And this isn't wood that you can just go to Home Depot and buy. This is specialty wood that has to withstand hurricane forces. And in addition to that, it's not just a lifeguard stand. It's almost like a mini hospital is really what it is, because these lifeguards need all the technology available at their fingertips to save your life. If you're having a medical emergency on the beach, if you're drowning, if you're caught in a rip current, if you're having a heat or sunstroke or some other type of medical event, you want those lifeguards to be able to save your life. And that's exactly what we want to do. So you have to have medical equipment in there. They need paddleboard equipment and their surfboards. So it's not just a lifeguard stand, a piece of wood where somebody sits and looks at the ocean all day. It's really a mini tactical hospital that we have there on the beach to provide the best service that we can to our residents. I'm not ever going to compromise public safety. Public safety is the #1 priority for municipal government. So I'm not willing to jeopardize the lives of our residents, the lives of our visitors, because that's what we're there to do. So is it more than what we wanted to spend? Yes, of course. But that was the low bid. The high bid that we had was $365,000 each. So from that comparison, we didn't do too bad. And oh, by the way, the city of Hollywood went out to bid roughly the same time we did for their lifeguard stands. Now they had a couple more bells and whistles than we did, but their lifeguard stands came back bidded just under $1 million each.
Wow.
So you can tell what the price has gone up, and the commitment that the cities are having to public safety going forward. 60% of our budget is to public safety. One of the people running against me wants to do a 10% decrease in property taxes across the board. That's fine, but you're going to have to cut police and fire, which is 60% of our budget, to accomplish that. I'm not willing to cut a police officer or to take a technician off an ambulance or take an ambulance off the road, because I know my residents, when they pick up the phone and are having a medical emergency, that they want the police or an ambulance to show up at their house. And I'm not willing to compromise that whatsoever, because that's really what public municipal government is about, is serving the residents to their core needs, because police, fire, roads, water, garbage, that's all city municipal functions. Those all cost money. And I think we do a hell of a good job with that here in the city of Deerfield Beach.
3 minutes, sum it up.
And you remember what you said you wanted to talk
Right.
about too, to close it out with.
I have so many things written down. You're going to have to refresh my memory.
We had a question in the chat. Someone said, "Can you ask how he feels about the Deerfield Packer Rattlers returning back to the park, city of Deerfield?" Tammy McNeil asked that question.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I started the show tonight. Is I am
Yep.
super enthused about it. So when the Packer Rattlers are coming back, so I sat down with the city manager and we came up with a plan. It was just me, it was all 5 of my colleagues. We all 5 had input into it. But one of the things that I told the city manager is that if the Packer Rattlers are going to come back, let's make them successful in their first year. Let's pay for everything. Let's not make them go out and fundraise. Let's not make them come up with part of it. Let's give them 100 cents on the dollar for year one and give them the opportunity to be successful. Because I'll be damned if I want my kids going to Pompano or other cities to play football. I want them here in the city of Deerfield Beach with the rich tradition we have with the Packer Rattlers program. So to do that, we gave them all of the seed money for year one. Private organizations and others are giving money to the Packer Rattlers for year two. I know my Devin Singletary jersey alone will pay for year two. And that's a joke, guys. That's a joke. And so
it will.
Just last night at the commission
Hopefully.
meeting, the firefighters donated $1,000.
$1,000.
The Packer Rattlers. Yes. So those donations will come in. So I am absolutely, thrilled that they're coming back. This is a necessity for our city. And so I've always been in favor of it. And for anyone that wants to say otherwise is just plain wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 minutes, Vice Mayor. Tell the people of Deerfield Beach why you should be the next mayor of Deerfield Beach, Florida.
Well, thank you for asking, and I appreciate the opportunity to summarize. And it all comes down to experience and vision. It really boils down. Sorry, it really boils down to that in its simplistic form. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Because the voters deserve a clear choice in this election, because I want this city to continue to move forward as we develop, but I do not want us to become the next Pompano Beach, the next Boca Raton with the skyscrapers. I love Deerfield Beach just the way it is, kind of its small town. I call it like surf village feel to it. That's the way I describe my Deerfield Beach. And that's the way that I want us to see us move forward as we go. There's development opportunities, but that are not intrusive on a big scale basis like our sister cities, because we can do this and we can give ourselves a facelift going forward, but we can do it the right way that we can all be proud of. And to do that, you're going to have someone that's had the experience for the last 8 years doing that. So I've had the opportunity to negotiate with the developers. I've had the opportunity to discuss with our own city staff as to what we want to see in these projects. Oftentimes when the development projects come to us firsthand, they're much bigger than what gets approved. And I think the public doesn't understand that. We get the grandiose pie in the sky projects that come to the city as proposals, but what ultimately gets approved is a much smaller version of that after we've had an opportunity to beat them up. And I'm the only person that's been through those trenches that can do that for this city. So if experience and the vision are important to you, then I'm your candidate for the next mayor of Deerfield Beach.
Well, thank you very much.
We want to wish you good luck.
Todd Drosky.
Tuesday, March 11th. Everyone, please go out and vote. Next Tuesday, March 11th. The polls will be open at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's no early voting. You can also vote by mail if you haven't already voted, but please go out and vote. You have 2 commission races and a race for mayor, so please go out and vote.
Absolutely. And if you're just joining us, we've been talking to Vice Mayor Todd Drosky, and he's asking for your vote on Tuesday, March 11th. Stay tuned. We have the mayor of Deerfield Beach, the outgoing mayor, Bill Gantz. He's coming up to say farewell to everyone. So everybody that's out there watching in Facebook land and YouTube land, stay tuned because Mayor Bill Gantz is coming up next. Vice Mayor Todd Drosky, thank you so much. Good luck to you on Tuesday, March 11th, sir.
Thank you so much. As always, great to be with you guys. Appreciate the time.
And if you win, come back. I tell everyone that don't leave us hanging. Come back and talk with us throughout the year, at least once or twice.
I'll be back. I have a lot more to talk about I didn't get to today, so be happy to join you.
Well, you have everything you need right here with the Adams Brothers podcast to come back. You have our well wish.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.